I remember one day Cuco Arias calls me. He tells me, Javier, would you like to work in Sabado? I go, I love entertainment, but is Sabado a steady job? And he goes to me, listen, Javier, Sabado's been on for 25 years. I think we got a couple years left here. Are you interested? I go, you know what? Sure. He says, you're starting at 1 o'clock.
Javier Romero is a radio host with over 49 years of experience. He was the voice of Sábado Gigante, a Guinness World Record-winning show, the longest-running variety show in TV history, and an iconic program in Spanish-language television. And if that wasn't enough, Javier became the first Cuban American inducted into the National Radio Hall of Fame, one of the most prestigious honors in broadcasting. Today, he joins Creativehubtalk to share his story, a story that quite literally begins behind a microphone. But before we get started, I wanted to mention that 55 Creative Hub is a full-service production facility that brings together everything under one roof. Studios, post-production suites, podcast rooms, music composition, and comprehensive distribution support. For more information, please visit 55creativehub.com.
Bert, what an honor to be able to speak with you for a little while, and it's great because every time I see you, I see myself starting out on television. I mean, I think we go back quite a few years, and it's just great to be here and join you and talk for a little while and have this friendly talk.
You're just one of those people I'm so proud of, from where you started to where you are today, and that trajectory, right? So Sábado Gigante, that was a turning point.
That was incredible. You know,
point?
I can talk a lot about that because I started in radio back in 1980, and a little bit before that actually, but I got my first job in 1980. And one of the persons that really helped me out a lot when I was starting out, I had Roberto Rodriguez Tejera on one side, and then I had Cuco Arias on another side. And they both helped me a lot when I was starting out. My break was, believe it or not, the Mariel boat lift, 100,000 Cubans that came from Mariel, Cuba in 1980. And I'm saying that was my break because when that happened, immigration down here was overwhelmed with all the Cubans were arriving. And they would put the Cubans in 3 different places. They would put them at the Tamiami Park, you know, those big warehouses where now the youth fair does their thing and everything. Under I-95, that was Tent City. And then at Opa-locka Airport, they would store the Goodyear blimp in a huge hangar. So those 3 places, when the Cubans came from Cuba, through the Mariel boat lift, they would put them there. So after a couple of weeks, immigration was a little bit overwhelmed, and they called the radio stations. And they said, we need somebody to come out and take names down of the people that are arriving and make sure they say them on the air so family that's here already knows that their family got here. So obviously, I was at FM 92 back then, and when they talked to the DJs that had been around for a long time, nobody wanted to do that. So there's this kid bouncing around, and that was me. And they asked me, they said, would you do this? Go every afternoon to these 3 places? Mind you, traffic back in Miami back in those days was not as bad as it is today.
Exactly.
But I said, you know what? I'll do it. But I had a problem. I was only 15 years old.
You couldn't drive.
I couldn't drive. But they offered me $5 an hour. I was a millionaire because the minimum wage back then was $3.10. Okay? So I spoke to a friend of mine in high school, Jamie. He had a beautiful car. He was 16 years old. He drove. I told him, I'll give you $20 a week. And you drive me around and you take me to these 3 places and I'll get the names down. And it was my opportunity to be on the air at 5:30 in the afternoon, every afternoon saying names on the air. So we started doing this. And, the tent city under I-95, that's where all the delinquents were.
Right.
I would have to go in there with policemen.
Yeah.
And I became friends with all these delinquents because they would see me every day and they say, Javier, get me out of here, bro. Get me out of here. And in Opa-locka and Tamiami, the families were there. So after a couple of weeks that we would take names down and everything, the families had young girls. They were our age. So Jamie told me, hey, you don't have to pay me anymore. He was getting down names and making contacts, and he was all very happy. But anyways, long story short, after about 3 months of doing that, immigration sent a letter to the radio station saying that we had done a fantastic job. And that got me in the door because that got me one shift a week, overnight shift, cemetery shift. Ooh. It was from Saturday. It was actually Saturday, 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. Ooh. But I was the happiest guy in the world.
Yeah.
Because listen, here's a guy in high school still doing a shift on radio.
Yeah.
And then from there, I did other shifts. I did overnights for over 4 years.
If you're creating content in today's media landscape, speed, quality, and distribution all matter. That's where 55 Creative Hub comes in. Located in Doral, Florida, we're a full-service production space built for creators, brands, and production teams. Studios, post-production. Focus on the idea, and we'll bring it to life. 55 Creative Hub. Ideas made real.
So let me catch up to you. A couple things. So when you got hired at the radio station, you weren't a DJ.
No.
You were just an employee at the radio station.
I was an employee, but I was practicing to be a DJ because since the first time I met Roberto Rodriguez, he told me, "Man, you have a good voice."
He was general manager. What was his role? Who was
he was the evening DJ.
Oh, the evening.
He
DJ.
was the evening DJ. Actually, he was number one. He had these great shows going on.
Yeah.
And I started out by helping him out.
Yeah.
And that's how I got into the radio station. And I started going into the productions room and I started recording. And him and Cuco would correct me. Hey, you have to do this. Your periods have to be flat. You can't be leaving a high comma, when you finish speaking because I would say this and this and that and this because I thought that was announcing, and, they would tell me, no, you got to be firm about the things you say. So they coached me for a while. And after doing this for 3 months, the immigration thing, They gave me a shot at one overnight a week.
And did you feel, so let me go back so the audience knows, Antonio Arias, Cuco Arias, he was a radio guy. The guy is a gentleman to this day. At some point, I'm sure we might talk, we're going to talk about Sábado Gigante. He's executive producer of Sábado Gigante. But Antonio Arias, saludos, señor. When you were doing these names, did you feel you were doing a job or were you doing a service?
I felt I was doing a job. I felt I was doing a service, and I felt playful about it. I mean, I was a kid, but I felt like I was playing. I was getting paid for it, and just the mere fact of saying I work in radio, that was like a huge thing to me at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, in fact, the first time that I ever visited Roberto, and he told me, you have a pretty good voice. You have to do some exercises. I started talking with a pencil in my mouth. I started talking on the corner of a room to just listen to my tone.
Yeah.
I started doing different exercises, tone exercises and stuff. For me, the mere fact of thinking that one day I could work at radio was like, wow, I had never thought about it. I mean, in fact, I went to school, I went to UM, and I studied electrical engineering. And I did 3 years of electrical engineering. For what? For nothing. I went into communications afterwards, that's another story.
That's a long time ago.
But that's a long time ago.
Look where you're at today.
And anyways, after doing like 3-4 years of overnights, I got a shot at doing the late night shift, which it was from 10 o'clock at night to 2 in the morning. Then from there, I went to doing evenings, 6 to 10 in the evening. And then from there, I jumped into the morning show. And I started doing mornings on January 12th, 1985. So this January 12th coming up, it will be 42 years doing the morning show. And to tell you the truth, I don't think there's anybody in the U.S. right now that has done a morning show for 42 years. There might be announcers that have been on the air for a long time.
Yes.
But a morning show for 42 years, I doubt it. And El Desayuno or breakfast has been going on for 42 years.
So morning show.
Morning show.
Years.
42 years.
Getting up,
initially, I would say I would get up at 4:30.
And did you have coffee at that time? Cafecito cubano?
I was still at home, so my mother would wake up with me. I got to give it to her.
You were still in
I was
20.
a kid. I was a kid.
Yeah.
And she would make me el café con leche.
There you go.
So that would get me going. After that, I started waking up earlier and earlier because I've noticed the trend in radio as the market grows, the morning show starts earlier. Back then we would start at 6. Right now we start at 5:30.
Yeah.
I think we could even start at 5, but I won't bring that up.
Yeah.
At least I hope no bosses are listening, so they won't think of that. But our market, I think, is pretty much ready for a 5 a.m. morning show.
So your morning show back then, you weren't on camera.
No, not at all. Not at all. We could go to work in shorts or, whatever, beach wear, and
today
no problem.
you have to come in and
today, we got cameras everywhere in the studio, so.
and you're on social also.
And
You're on live
we're
here.
on VIX streaming,
Yep.
and we're on YouTube. And everybody's always taking pictures. Anytime there's an artist coming in here for an interview, their PR people are taking video and whatever,
Yeah,
So,
you're always on.
so we're always on,
Always
pretty
on.
much.
You walk out exhausted.
So from there, when I started doing mornings in '85, I remember doing my first TV commercial was for Colonial Pontiac. It doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
It was right off of I-95 and 79th Street.
Yes.
And I did several spots for them. Then my first TV appearance was doing the it was the Lou Rawls Telethon. Lou Rawls
okay.
for the United Negro College
Yes,
Fund.
yes.
And I remember I was at the Fontainebleau Hilton doing the Miami portion
Yes.
of the telethon.
Yes.
And I was able to, I was there with another gentleman, James T. He was on EDR for a long time.
Okay.
I think he's still on Hot 105 now, another radio station in the market.
Yeah.
And that was my first big TV appearance. Then from there, I started here at Univision back in late 1986. And my first show was Antes de las 6 with Alina Mayo Ace. Then we became En Vivo a las 4. Then we died at 5 o'clock because they cut us. I think it was when Univision was sold to Hallmark.
Yeah.
We were cut. So at the time, the news director was Gustavo Pupo Mayo. He spoke to me and he told me, "Would you like to do the weather?" And I go, "Gustavo, I don't know much about meteorology, to tell you the truth." He goes, "Don't worry. What you have to do here is say if it's going to be cold, hot, if it's going to rain or not. And you'll learn the tricks of the trade." So I said, "Okay, man, let's do it. Let's do it." So I started doing weather. Guillermo Benitez, may he rest in peace. He helped me out a lot at the beginning. But besides that, at the University of Miami, I believe it was the University of Missouri, came down and they did a 120-hour meteorology course, which I took. And it helped me a lot. I learned what a high-pressure system was, what a low-pressure system was, how to, hurricanes get stronger or weaker or stronger. And it helped me quite a bit. And I did weather here locally and nationally because every time there was a hurricane, I would have to do for Univision News the coverage. And I did it for 4.5, almost 5 years.
So tell me about, we have a nickname for Javier. We used to call him Super Nevs.
And I call you Super Bird.
That's right. Because he was, at the beginning, he didn't know. He was stepping in and he was always nervous. Still? Are you still nervous going on?
You know why I was nervous at the beginning? Not because of what I was doing, but since I came from here, from radio, I was used to being in control.
Oh.
So my nerves were that back then, Vicente Riesgo would do the prompter and he would do my maps.
Yes.
And he would switch him for me. Well, no, I would switch him. Sometimes I would not switch him when the switch would break.
Yeah.
But I was careful about the lights. I would care about the camera.
Yeah.
I would care about everything, you know. And so that made me kind of nervous. So you guys started calling me Nerby.
Yes.
But then from Nerby, I became Super Nerves.
Yes.
And then I started calling everybody Super
That's
Vince,
interesting.
Super Bird.
I always thought it was because you were nervous being on camera. No,
Well,
it comes from being behind the camera.
Well,
this is your domain, and all of a sudden you got a crew.
I got a crew that I got to depend on.
That you got to depend on.
And you
By
know,
the way,
yeah.
I've popped you in it out a couple times when I was TD.
I know when you
all
were
of a sudden,
TDing.
poof, there he is.
Well, because I remember you TD'd and you directed also.
Yes.
You and John Perez would alternate.
Yes.
I remember that
was
that
good.
era.
Good time.
Yeah.
So you started in radio. The gentleman, what was his name? Ray? The gentleman told you had the voice.
Roberto Rodriguez.
Roberto Rodriguez. So
Yeah.
The Voice. Tell me about The Voice. Was it something that just naturally happened? Is it something that you were already working on, although you went to school for?
Well, I'll tell you something, Bert. I left Cuba very young, and we went to live in Spain. And I lived in Spain for 4 years. So I think the love for Spanish grew there because I did my kindergarten, first and second grade in Spain. So my Spanish, and my parents also took care of this, was always pretty good. So I had pretty good diction, quote unquote. But at 14 years old, 15 years old, we're all changing our voice. And Roberto noticed this. He noticed that I had very good diction, but he noticed, your voice is changing. So that's why he gave me exercises of tone exercises. I would do do till my air would run out, to also develop your diaphragm because that's part of announcing and everything. So he gave me several exercises, and he told me, come back in 3 months. I came back in 3 months. Then I started helping him out. That's when I met Cuco closer. And, we were there like every evening together, and they would listen. They would put me to read news. And since Cuco did news, I wanted to do music, but they would put me to read news because they said that's what's going to give you, good language on the air. It's going to give you more vocabulary, and it's going to help you in your pronunciation. So after a while, and after all this couple of years, after a while, Cuco leaves the radio, and he comes over to TV. He was at Sabado, but he was not the executive producer yet. But he told me, listen, Javier, there's an audition for a show, which was Antes de las Seis, that Cynthia Hudson and Maria Lopez were the producers.
And they were on our podcast,
So I went to the audition, and my audition was to sit in front of a camera for 5 minutes and speak about things that I thought were important. And I guess they thought I was pretty good at it. So they picked me to do the show.
Ad-lib, no script.
No ad-lib.
That's it.
Pure
ad-lib.
Ad-lib. Pure ad-lib. But, I've always said that if you do radio, you can do television. Now, if you do television, I'm not sure if you can do radio. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, and I wanted to get into that, into your preparation of a daily show, live, talking to the people. What goes into that? How many people are on your team to prepare for the morning show?
Well, we have a producer, which is David Checho Jimenez. He's our producer. He's an excellent producer. He usually does our script. But besides that, I'll go home now. I'll watch the midday news. I'll watch the 5 o'clock news. I'll watch 6 o'clock. I'll watch network news. I'll be nowadays also the phone, the phone or the computer. I'll be on top of all the news that's going on, and also curious news, because radio and entertainment radio that we do in the morning, it's not only about giving all the hard news. I mean, we have to be on top of what's top news, but we also have to give lighter news. So I'll look into a lot of that. So when I come in at 4:30 in the morning, there's no one here. So, but I've always come all the way from my house to here listening to news. I have satellite radio, so I listen to several different media. I listen to the liberal radio, and I listen to the conservative radio, and I put 2 and 2 together, and I try to be.
That's where the jokes come from.
Well, maybe, yeah. And then when I get here and Checho gets here, I see what he has in store, and I'll tell him if I have something that I can, add to whatever the script is. Usually we do 2 or 3 different things, and that's how we prepare pretty much every day.
So unlike television, you don't really rehearse.
No.
You can't rehearse your 4 hours of radio.
No.
You're kind of winging it the whole morning, seeing what's going on. Organized.
Totally. In an organized fashion, because obviously we have to be organized because we have commercial breaks. And, clients expect their commercials at certain times, and we have to respect that. So basically, that's on the radio side, it works pretty much that way.
So tell me about, we were young at that time.
Yeah.
But you had to get up at 4:30 in the morning. You had a family. You got off at 10. You go to work. Well, we haven't talked about Sabado yet, but you go to work till 11 o'clock at night. How was that?
It was rough. It was rough. But, I guess, when you come from the immigrant mentality that you want to move forward and you want to, give your family the best, you work your behind out, and that was always my thought. And I saw that in my dad. My dad worked incredibly till he was about 80 years old. And
what did he do?
He was In Cuba, he was a market owner. When he came here, he had to learn about butcher shop. He became a butcher, but then he became a part owner of supermarkets. And he actually had 2 or 3 different supermarkets with his cousin down here till he retired.
Entrepreneur.
And basically, he retired because at 77, he had a minor stroke. And after that, he worked for a couple more years, but then he called it quits. And I thought that was enough. I mean, at 80, if you retired at 80, I mean, wow, that's incredible.
Yes.
So I had that work ethic of you got to work hard to move forward.
Yeah.
And that's what always moved me. Also, I guess, like you said, we were young. I don't think I can have the same rhythm of work that I had back then now, especially Sabado. Sabado recording time was 10, 12 hours a day. And then the next morning, in fact, Don Francisco had a joke that sometimes we would run into midnight recording. And he said, hey, guys, we have a bus out there. He would tell the audience this. We have a bus out there. Whoever wants to go to the radio station with Javier, hop on the bus, and he'll take you to the radio station.
So let's talk about Sabado. I mean, I'm glad we talked about radio. It's still your life today.
Yeah. And it has changed a lot. Radio has changed a lot throughout the years.
But Sabado was an important part.
Oh, yeah.
Is that what took you national, or did you have a national radio show or anything like that, or was Sabado your?
I think Sabado was my platform, undoubtedly. I mean, before joining Sabado, I did do several shows for the network back in the Omar Marchand days. Omar gave me opportunities. I remember doing a beach party show. I did Nuestra Belleza when Nuestra Belleza was a pageant.
That's right.
I did Nuestra Belleza on several occasions. I also did El Festival Oti. I mean, we're going back here.
Going back.
Quite a few times.
Yes.
But besides that, and when I used to do the weather, it was more convenience than anything else. But I made the weather segment entertaining in the sense that, I don't know if you remember, but I would ask for the Instavision truck every time I could, and I would be out on the street.
Yes.
Why? Because the 11 o'clock news was late, and I would try to pick maybe the Coral Gables fountain close to my house to be able to do the weather and just go home and sleep because I had to wake up the next morning to do radio.
Yeah.
So believe it or not, I think that entertainment end of doing weather really helped me out to go into Sabado. Besides that, Cuco would call me once in a while to do the different panels. I don't know if you remember, Sabado had like singing contests, and there would be like a panel. I would be part of the panel.
Yes.
So I knew Don, and I knew a little bit of the show before joining it. But I remember one day Cuco Arias calls me, and he tells me, Javier, would you like to work in Sabado? I go, wow, Cuco, I love entertainment, but tell me something. Is Sabado a steady job? Because, I do news, and bad or good, everyday news goes on the air. And I don't know how long Sabado's going to be on the air. And he goes to me, listen, Javier, Sabado's been on for 25 years. I think we got a couple years left here. And so he goes, are you interested? I go, you know what? Sure. Don will be at the radio station tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. He came the next morning at 8 a.m., and we talked a little while. He says, you're starting at 1 o'clock. And they just threw me on there, and I just went on and
did your thing.
And I did my thing, and the rest is history. I was on there for 25 years.
Yes. Good time?
Yeah, good time. Very good time.
Good time.
In fact, I remember Mario in our pre-production meetings, he would always say, you guys are going to miss this when we go off. And you know what? I see him once in a while. I join him for like Shabbat dinners on Fridays, or we just get together, and he tells me, man, I really miss the show. And I tell him, Mario, I miss the show too.
I think everyone misses the show because that show was entertaining, it was informative, and it was fun. And I know we got The Voice and we got all these other shows going on, but nothing was as variety. That was true of variety
That was true of variety. And Bert, that that if you didn't like a segment, you knew that in 7-8 minutes, another segment would come, and maybe it would be your favorite one.
Yep.
So that made the show very, very entertaining for a lot of people. And, I run into a lot of people on the street and said, that was the show I grew up with. That was the show my parents would watch because we didn't have money to go out on Saturday nights, or my grandparents would watch. And one of the most surprising things was I walked into these Flanagans
Yeah.
with my son, and we're being seated in the restaurant, and we're going through one of the hallways of the restaurant, and this huge guy, about 6'5", stands up and says, "I know you," and he was an American guy, an Anglo guy. I go, "You know me?" I'm saying, "Where does this guy know me from?" And he said, "I grew up with you," and I go, "You grew up with me?" I find that hard to believe. He goes, "My nanny, she was from Nicaragua, and she made me sit every Saturday night and watch the show. And the little Spanish I know is thanks to you guys."
There you go.
So those are very rewarding comments that you run to.
And I hear those comments even today, how Sabado was a place to go to learn Spanish, to get entertained, to watch the jokes, all that. You're in radio, you're in TV. I wore this shirt today on purpose.
And I love it.
Tell me about music.
I love it. I love it. Well, music, it's great because, I have the old mentality. Nowadays, to program radio, you have these committees and listening parties and whatever. And, I come from a time, I grew up in programming with Betty Pino. May she rest in peace. And heavy hitter. We would sit in a little office and we would put the record or we would put the CD. We would listen to it. We would get maybe either, the record company telling us, this is what we're thinking of. What do you guys think? And we would tell them, I don't think that should be the release. I think this should be the release. I think this is what people are going to listen to. I know that nowadays, you have all these music services and you have all these platforms and everything, but I still run myself and I still run the show. I mean, I follow programming, I would say, maybe 60, 70% of what's on there. But then I put a lot of my feeling into it, and I put a lot into what people are telling me or asking me for into it also. I think that's very important because, a lot of the automatic programming is very repetitive.
Yes.
So, you want I think one of the biggest complaints I ever hear on the street is, we want variety. Yeah. We don't want to hear the same song over and over again. And I understand that when a new song comes out, like, for example, right now, song that opened up Premio Lo Nuestro, Mark Anthony and Nati Peluso, Como en el Idilio. That song just, I do a hit parade show on weekends, which is syndicated. That was number one for a couple weeks. Right now it's down to 3 or 4. And I understand that song. Sometimes I play it twice on the show. But that's one song. That, those are one and another song. But you have to give people variety.
It has a time, right?
And
you'll pay it twice in your show, but then at some point you let that go and bring the next one.
And you have to also carry that flow. And I guess I learned that flow from the first radio station I worked at, which was, I mentioned, FM 92. The way Betty programmed, she would program the songs by numbers, 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1 was a fast beat song, 2 was intermediate beat, 3 was slow, and 4 was salsa. And, we would have like a 1, 2. Our sheet would be like 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 4, 1.
You pick the songs? So they would just tell you the genre.
Just the
and
exactly.
then you'd get that's old radio.
That's old radio. But it was beautiful radio. Yeah. It was nice because it was expect the unexpected. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I've always thought of that. In fact, one of the first campaigns, they gave me the chance to do as far as, how do you want to promote the show? I said, expect the unexpected. And I love that. And I still maybe use that phrase once in a while I'm doing the desayuno here.
Yeah. And music for you?
Music for me is very important. I listen to all type of musics. I listen to rock. I love Led Zeppelin, Aerosmith. I love pop music also. I listen to Neil Diamond, Barry Manilow. I listen to classical music. I listen to Spanish music. I listen to everything,
You play an
I
instrument?
listen to Hillary Duff.
I'm okay. Listen, I just listened to Miley Cyrus the other day. I said, Apple, play me the essentials of Miley Cyrus.
Miley Cyrus, there you go. Miley Cyrus,
from
Hannah Montana.
Hannah Montana days.
Yeah.
Do you play any instrument?
No, I don't.
Yeah,
I've never played. I did have an interview once with, I've interviewed him several times, Plácido Domingo.
Oh.
I remember he told me, you have a good voice for opera. You should develop it. And I go, no, I don't even sing. Well, I sing in the shower maybe, but I got to learn how to give better tones out, un poco desafinado.
I'm really good at a red light playing air drums.
yeah, that type of thing. But that's where it stops, or singing along a song that maybe I like or something like that.
Excellent. How was that last day for you for Sabado?
That last day was kind of nostalgia. I thought it was sad when we all went into a bus, and then we went around the block, and then we came back, and they sort of had a party. But I didn't stay for the party. I didn't think it was time to party. I thought it was very sad. I think it was not our moment to leave. I think we were told to leave. And I think we had a couple more years left, to tell you the truth. And I understand that, TV has changed a lot with, streaming and everything, and how people can ask for what they want to watch at any moment in time. Yeah. I think Sabado was really such a great stage. I still think, it would be great to make the best of Sabado, on demand. That was an idea that was brought up, and they even told me if I wanted to host that, and I said, hey, sure, man, I'd love to do that.
Excellent.
But it never went through.
I've been, my daughters live up in New York, and I've been twice to the Television Broadcasting Hall of Fame, whatever it's called. And I'll go in and see a file. I've done that a couple times just to go in and see Sabado.
Yeah.
And el orgullo, how proud to have something like that in that institution, right?
Oh, it's amazing.
Christina, other shows that we have done. I never wanted to work in Spanish television. I wanted to go be general market and go do the Oscars and all that. We've had an opportunity here to do what we've done for Spanish television and for our audience.
And you've seen how we've come a long ways.
We've come a long
ways. As far as production and everything, we've come a long ways.
That's right.
I remember, what was it called? The ADO or something like that? The ADO. And that was a big deal when the ADO would move an image over.
Yes.
And then when the next thing came up, and then when we got that whole studio with green screen.
Yes.
That you can walk around and the thing would look like it was in the air. And now, yes. I mean, you can do so many things with computers now. It's amazing.
How has technology affected your role?
Well,
easier, harder?
It gets harder for a while because, you get used to working in a certain way. And the radio end of it, a lot of it for me, since on the contrary to like many radio stations in other parts of the world where they have an operator, for me, I'm hands-on. So I'm all about timing, and I'm all about how dynamic I can be. And anytime there's a new system or something, like when we got the Zeta, this computer that we have here for our programming, it was like, oh, boy, am I going to be able to talk between songs? Am I going to be able to stop the machine? You would wonder all these questions. And tell you the truth, I mean, it's made life a lot easier. But it's kind of hard to keep up with technology, and technology is going so fast. And I think I've been left behind in some things, but I try to keep up. I try to look at our younger generation that they're on top of everything, and I try to ask, hey, what does this do, and what does that do, and how can I get better at this?
So tell me about you got this new system,
right?
And there's a learning curve.
Yeah,
something goes out of control.
Oh, sometimes it freezes.
And what do you do?
I call Checho because, no, the thing is, sometimes I'm talking on the air and the program freezes, and he has to come and reset it, and while he's resetting, here I am ad-libbing and, just making my phrases longer, and I have to keep going, because that's what controls everything.
Yeah. And what does your day look like? I know you get up at 4:30 in the morning, you leave. Are you in bed by 6, 5 o'clock in the afternoon?
Well, right now I get up at 3 in the morning. I'm usually in bed anywhere between 8:15. I'm very military about that because, I know that if I go out of that schedule, your body will tell you the next day, hey, why'd you do that? Like, for example, 2 weeks ago, I went to an event. I mean, I'll go to an event if there's no other, way out of it.
Yeah.
And I went to an event on a Wednesday, and it just destroyed the rest of my week because that night I went to bed like at 11 o'clock. I was up at 3 again. And then the next morning, I went into I call it my plan B. My plan B, I don't talk too much because if I talk too much, I'll I'll mess up somewhere.
Yeah.
So I go to my plan B, which is very basic, and I let my colleagues take over a little bit and just do my thing the best I can.
So I wanted to mention about your colleagues. You have two today.
Mm-hmm.
Have you always had someone, or there was a time where you're by yourself? We have to fill that time.
Well, I started by myself with a news guy. His name was Frank Huertas. And then I had this other gentleman, Nelson Horta. Then I brought Osvaldo Vega in with me. Osvaldo was with me for 27 years.
Yeah.
Back in around 1999, I would say, we brought a girl into the show, which was Roxana Garcia. She's on in the afternoons now with Jose Antonio. And I bring her up because by the time she got used to us and we got used to her, Claudia Puig, which was our general manager, told me, Javier, I need Roxana to go into the afternoon show because Jose Antonio needs to talk to somebody. And I said, wow, Claudia, you're going to take her away from us? And, she got used to us already. And, it's not easy finding a partner. So she went into the afternoon, and God bless her because it was a better opportunity for her. And we brought in Paula Arcila. Mm-hmm. Paula was on with us for about 15 years, 15 or 16 years, something like that, 14, 15 years. And when Osvaldo left, Danny Cruz took over. And when Paula left, she left to Spain. Then we brought in Vela. Mm-hmm. And Danny has been with me now for the last 10 years. And Vela has been with me for about 8 years. And I'm proud of that because I haven't had many partners throughout time. I mean, when you look back for 41, 42 years doing a morning show, and I can count with my fingers how many partners I had, when you compare to that to other radio stations, I've been very blessed and very lucky to have that kind of stability.
But I think that says something about you.
Well,
I think that says something that you're Javier, whether you're on microphone, on camera, or at home.
Yeah, you know what? I've tried to, when I end my hit parade show on Sundays, and I took this phrase from Casey Kasem, he would always say at the end of the show, reach for the stars with your feet on the ground. And I always say, alcanza las estrellas, pero con los pies bien puestos sobre la tierra, and I really believe in that. I think, this is a job like any other. And we're very fortunate. We're very lucky. We're very blessed to do what we love to do, what we feel passion for. And by the same token, you have to take it like that, like something that God put on your path and make the best of it. And that's the way I look at it.
Very nice. You're still on television.
Yes, I am.
You host a community affairs show.
It's called Contigo en la Comunidad.
Totally different.
Totally different. Yeah, I never thought I'd be doing that, but like we've spoken at some point, this media thing takes you through different routes, and you never know where you're going to end up. But you got to be open to everything. I mean, if you love what you do, and I love being a communicator, so I'm open to it. Contigo en la Comunidad started in the Miami market for me. Already, 5 years ago? Incredible. I've been doing this for 5 years already. I started the Miami market. Then I went Miami, Tampa, and Orlando. Then we went Miami, Tampa, Orlando, Atlanta, and Raleigh-Durham. And now we're actually Miami, Tampa, Orlando, Atlanta, Raleigh-Durham, New York, and Boston. And I don't know if we're on Philadelphia and Washington, but we're pretty much up the East Coast.
There you go. And pretty soon national. So tell me about that community show. And so for me, local radio, local TV is missing that community that we used to have. Do you find that? What do you find in the community when you're talking to these people out there?
You know what? I've always said that grassroots promotions are very important because grassroots promotion is going out into the community, is sharing with your listeners or your TV viewers for that matter. And at least on the radio side, I can do that. And we do that. We have coffee parties. We have El Desayuno al Aire Libre, which is when we go out, we'll go out next Friday and broadcast from a car wash. And or we had a coffee party last week at one of the coffee places down here in the Kendall area. And I think that's very important because that way we see the sentiment of people. We see where people stand. We see that they're going through and now a hardship with economy. We have the immigration problems. And this community show that I'm doing on television has opened my eyes a lot for a lot of the things that are going on and a lot of the things we have to care about. Like, for example, last month was Autism months. This month is all about mental health. We have a big issue with mental health in this country. So, it's very important to get the word out there and tell our people, listen, going to a psychiatrist or a psychologist is like going to see your gastro or seeing an orthopedic surgeon if your arm is not working correctly. So if your mind doesn't feel right, if you're a little bit depressed or a lot depressed or you feel very anxious, hey, go see a psychiatrist. Doesn't mean you're crazy. And that's always been a taboo in our community.
In our culture.
In our culture, a psychiatrist. Oh, no, that guy's crazy. He's seeing a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
No, hey, they'll put things in perspective, and it'll be someone neutral, whether it's a psychologist or psychiatrist, that will listen to you and will determine what you need to move forward in the best way possible.
I love what you just said because I think it's important.
It's totally important.
I go for a tune-up every once in a while.
Oh, that's
once in a while,
totally
you just
important.
need a neutral person that sees things, in a different way.
Right.
With a professional background, and you get a little guidance. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with it.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Very good. Very good. Very good. Very good. Very good. Do you do a podcast?
No, I don't.
What do you think of podcasts?
I think podcasts are great. I think this is great what we're doing here. I think it's fantastic. I just don't think I've gotten into it. On one end, I think because a lot of my forte is music, and a lot of music you can't play on podcasts because you need licensing, and that's a very inside backdoor info. But so I really haven't gotten into it, and I think to do a podcast you have to have a good production team, which you do right here, and I congratulate you for it. You have a great team behind you, and besides that, I think I don't know if I have the strength to do a podcast right now with everything else I got going on, because I still do a lot of commercials. I still do my radio show daily. I do the TV show on weekends, and I do the Hit Parade de America, which is the syndicated show, which is a 2-hour show, which I do for the pop market and the regional Mexican market.
Oh, I didn't know you did that.
Yeah.
I thought it was just pop.
Oh, no, it's pop and regional Mexican. And it takes time to do that too, and it takes time to get info on the artists and know what everybody's doing and what's going on.
And can I ask you? So when you're doing your show, not the live one, the one that's recorded,
okay,
how much of that is automated? Are you just reading the script and then it's put together? Are you doing a show like live on tape?
I do live on tape audio.
Yeah.
I don't have a script.
Okay.
My only script is the countdown itself.
Oh.
But I think I know a little bit enough of the artists to talk about what's happening with them.
Yep.
And I do have certain scripts, like, for example, we have Petición y Dedicación, which is like a long distance dedication.
Yes.
That's usually like a letter or an email.
Yes.
And they're asking for a song or un saludo, a greeting. And we have another segment which is called Curiosidad, which is really talking about a certain artist or group that have, really made waves within the Latino market. And that's within the pop show. The regional Mexican show is a little flatter than that because the pop show is the top 15 songs. The regional Mexican is the top 20 songs. So to balance out that 2-hour segment, we have some extra segments on the pop show that we don't have on the regional side. And I have an interview with an artist every week.
Both of them are national?
Both of them are pretty national. They're not in all markets, but they're in a lot of the bigger radio markets.
So one of the last topics I wanted to talk about, and I mean, look, I'm getting goosebumps, okay? The Radio Hall of Fame.
Oh, that was incredible. I was very surprised about that. I was nominated actually by he was our general manager in Chicago back then, Doug Levy, which I thanked him personally. I didn't know Doug very well, but I did thank him. I thanked them many, many times. And when I got nominated, I said, "Wow, this is something." You know, I never really worked for that. I've never worked for any of the awards I've gotten, and I've gotten, fortunately, quite a few. I got the Big Mike Award. I got the they call it. Well, the Big Mike Award is like the big one, and also there's another one called La Medalla de Cortés, the Cortés Medal, which Cortés was the first Hispanic to have a radio station in the Texas area back in the 1940s, and then the Radio Hall of Fame, and I said, wow. And when I looked at the people that were in there, I said, wow, again. And there was only 3 of us. Now there's 4 of us. And there's 2 Latinos nominated this year. There's Raul Brindis and Enrique Santos are nominated. I'm going to vote, hopefully, for both of them because I get to vote.
Big names also, right?
And promote our Latinos to keep moving forward.
Right.
And when I joined, there was only, I was the 3rd one, actually. It was and Piolín.
Oh, Piolín.
And Piolín and myself.
Yeah.
And then last year, I voted for him, Gorring. He's actually the voice of the LA Dodgers. He comes out in these lawyer commercials with his son.
Yeah.
He's the older gentleman. And I forget what his first name is, but I know his last name is Gorring. So now there's 4 of us in there. And hopefully there'll be more of us as time goes by, at least if I can vote for them. And also vote for, I get to vote for several candidates. I try to vote for people I know that they've had a good trajectory in the business, and it was great. It was great to go. Though I went to Chicago. It was a great gala, and I was able to speak. I must say, there's some crazy people in radio because that year, man, there was some guys in there that I said, "Whoa, I'm a little kid besides these people." Little kid as far as the themes that they touch on the air and the stuff they do, you know.
Well, ever since like Sirius Radio and all those guys, and what do they call them? Shock jocks. Those
Shock
guys?
jocks. Yeah, we had one especially that year that man, he just went off completely, and it was a great experience. That was back in 2021.
Yeah.
And it's been awesome. I mean, it's been a great ride. I got to thank mostly Univision for all the opportunities and all the companies I've worked for. Besides that, before Univision, it was Hispanic Broadcasting, which merged into Univision. And besides Hispanic, I remember Amancio Suarez. He just passed away recently. And he had Viva America Media Group. And before that, it was Heftel Communications also. Howard Dogoff was my first boss. I always remember him. He gave me the shot. He gave me the chance. And he would call me Javier. And I'm just very thankful.
You are a humble person. You're sitting here talking and you're saying these things about how people have helped you. But you've done it yourself, too. They've given you the opportunity. They opened the door, but you walked through the door. So congratulations.
Well, thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. It's a pleasure. Listen, one more small thing. We have our little bowl. What's the name of the bowl, Gabby? Gabby, come over here. What's the name of the bowl?
So it's called Pick Your Brain Bowl Edition.
Oh, Pick Your Brain Bowl Edition. So that's like,
question.
it's a fun surprise question.
Yeah, so you don't know what's going to happen.
Okay.
Excellent. All right. Pick 2.
2?
Yeah,
okay.
Why not?
All right. I'll get this one. And this one. All right. So this first one, if your life had a theme song, what would it be?
Ooh, good one.
That's really nice. Well, I like a song that Barry Manilow had a long time ago. I think it was, in fact, our senior song, Looks Like We Made It.
Yes.
And I love that song, and
yes.
I want to think that way, Looks like we made it, and we're still working at it, because hopefully I'll be able to say that at the end of the road.
Excellent. Very
and then
good.
The other question says, how do you stay connected to your roots? Well, I think my parents had a lot to do with that, and I'm trying to do that with my kids also. And we do that through, well, first of all, our music, our Latin festivities, Spanish television, and our food. And I think that's how we keep our culture alive and just knowing what's going on in our countries. And that's all very important. And what our people are saying and what our people are worrying about, that's all incredibly important to keep our roots alive and always believe that and know where we came from, and not forget that.
Thank you.
Thanks
I
for
really
having me.
appreciate it. This, we always say hello and everything.
Yeah.
But I don't think we've ever sat down just to talk. And we
To
might
talk.
talk one or two things here.
Well,
but
we used to play football once in a while when
That's
we were starting out in 199th, but
that's a long time ago, man.
That was a long time ago, and we used to go to Aventura Mall
That's
also.
right. Yep.
And have a good time, and we used to go out for dinner
Softball.
between news,
Yep.
softball.
Remember the good old days.
Yeah,
Thank you,
it
Javier.
was very nice. Thanks
Thank
for
you for
having
what
me.
you do. Thank you for what you do.
Thanks for having me. I think this is a great opportunity to just have a great friendly talk. Thank you.
And that brings us to the end of today's episode of Creative Hub Talk. Thanks for spending time with us and being part of the conversation. If you found value in today's episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone in your creative circle. Until next time, keep creating, keep experimenting, and keep pushing the story forward. This was Creative Hub Talk, Voices that Move Media.